Okay, so continuing onward. So we've got to this point. Now we need to solve this. Someone tell me what I do next, Valerie. So I'm going to multiply the 4 because we're going to multiply before we subtract. So 4 times 4y is 16y minus y equals 30. What's next? Robert. So I can combine these. 16y minus y is 15y.
Equals 30.
And then how do I finish solving this? Maddie? Divide by 15. And y is 2. So now we have a value for y. Brandon, once we have a value for y, what do I do next? So we did step 1, we did step 2, we did step 3. So step 4 says we substitute. Where should I substitute that in? Number 1, way up at the top. X equals 4 times y, and we know y is 2. So x equals 8. So now we have x. So that's step 4. Step 5 says check. So now we go back to the first equation. We're going to plug in our numbers. 8 equals 4 times 2. Is that true? Yes. And then the second equation, 4 times 8 minus 2 equals 30. Is that true? Right? 32 minus 2 is 30. It needs to work for both equations. We're solving a system, so it needs to work for both. Once it works for both, we need to write our answer as a coordinate, xy coordinate. So if I were to graph these, what do you think the two lines would meet?
8, 2.
At 8, 2. So instead of graphing it, we're algebraically solving it. Okay? So this is x, y. We always list our coordinate x, y. So there's our x, there's our y. So let's look at example number 2. To do this one, what do we know about y? It's equal to 5x. So can I substitute the 5x in for y? So then we're going to keep the x. We're going to replace the y with 5x in the equation. So step 1 is already done. Step 2, we're replacing the y with 5x because they're equivalent. And now step 3, solve. So how would I solve this? What's x plus 5x? Good. Equals 36. Next. Divide by 6. X is 6. So that's the first part of my problem. How do I find y? Step number 4 says to plug x back into one of the first equations. Do we want to plug in the first or the second? Hello. I tried to call you back, but I somehow pushed the wrong number. He is in the middle of taking notes and really doesn't want to leave in the middle of it. Can I send him after? Thanks.
Gary, go to the office.
Okay. So once, Jake,
Hello?
do you want to go there instead?
No.
Then stop. Okay.
Not for that.
Number 4 says to substitute and find the answer for x. So we are for y. So we can plug into the first one or the second one. It's up to you. I would plug in the first one because it says y equals 5 times x. We know x is 6. So y is going to be 30. What is my next step? You said it? Check. So if we're going to check step number 5, we're checking. We're going to plug into the first equation. So y is 30. So we put 30 equals 5 times 6. Is that true? Yes. And then the second part is x, which is 6, plus y, which is 30, equals 36. Is that true? Yes. So the answer is what? How do I write my answer? Robert. 6, 30. And if I were to graph this, where would the two lines meet? 6, 30. How many solutions are there? 1. Very good. So now I want, we have to look at the next one's a little more challenging. So step number 1 is always to get one of the variables by itself. Are any of the variables by themselves right now? No. So we can pick either equation and solve for one of the variables. Anybody have a preference? Boris.
Should add 3y.
So he wants to take the first one and add 3y. Why did you pick that one?
Because
Does everybody see why he did that? X equals -9 plus 3y. He said the x is already kind of by itself. It has no number. If you pick the one that has no number, you don't have to do any division. You only have to add or subtract. So if the coefficient's 1, you only have to add or subtract. If we picked this one, we would have had to move the 5y, and then we would have had to divide as well. So if you pick the variable that has a coefficient of 1, then you just have to add or subtract to get it by itself. So now everybody see x is by itself. Everybody see that. So what does x equal? -9 plus 3y. So when we go